On the frigid morning of January 9, 2009, Buffalo, New York awoke to a discovery that would linger in the city's memory for years. Across from a modest home on Spring Street, beside a small neighborhood church, a large garbage tote stood frozen in the biting winter air. Inside was the body of 20-year-old Amanda Wienckowski, found naked, upside down, her head shaved, abandoned to the cold. The shocking find sent waves through the community, raising immediate questions about who she was, how she ended up there, and what had truly happened in her final hours. The initial ruling from the Erie County Medical Examiner was swift. Amanda's death was classified as an accidental overdose caused by acute opiate intoxication. But almost as soon as the conclusion was made public, doubts began to emerge. Photographs revealed bruises on her body. The strange positioning inside the tote raised suspicions. Toxicology reports left gaps that couldn't easily be explained. What should have been a clear answer became the start of a decade-long debate. Amanda's mother, Leslie Brill Messeroli, rejected the overdose ruling outright. She believed her daughter had been murdered. Independent pathologists and forensic experts supported her concerns, pointing to evidence of possible strangulation or suffocation. They argued that the official explanation did not align with the physical evidence or the circumstances in which Amanda's body was found. The discovery on that winter morning marked the beginning of a complicated and deeply unsettling case, one that would expose investigative oversights, challenge official narratives, and leave haunting questions that remain unresolved to this day. Amanda Wienckowski was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. Friends and family remember her as bright, athletic, and determined, a young woman who seemed destined for more. She attended Niagara Wheatfield High School, where she became a standout swimmer and dancer. Her outgoing personality earned her a wide circle of friends, and for a time her future looked clear. Amanda dreamed of working in law enforcement. She enrolled in vocational programs through BOCES to prepare for a career in policing, a path that reflected her disciplined, ambitious nature. Beneath that ambition, however, were personal struggles that began to surface during her teenage years. As Amanda entered adulthood, she began to drift toward a new social circle, one that introduced her to drugs. Her mother described it as though something was chasing her, something she could never quite outrun. Amanda battled with addiction, entering treatment programs and trying repeatedly to pull herself out. There were moments of progress, stretches of sobriety, renewed hope, family support, but addiction's grip was relentless. Each step forward was followed by a setback, and her world grew increasingly unstable. To sustain her addiction and survive financially, Amanda became involved in sex work. She worked under the direction of Adam Patterson, a much older man who lived on the Tuscarora Indian Reservation. Patterson acted as her driver and intermediary, arranging clients and taking a share of her earnings. It was a dangerous existence, one built on dependency, vulnerability, and trust placed in people who didn't always have her best interests at heart. Those close to Amanda noticed changes in her behavior: increased isolation, erratic routines, and risky encounters with strangers. Still, she maintained contact with her family, promising her mother that she would get clean and rebuild her life. In late 2008, Amanda confided to friends and family that she was trying to make a change. She was scheduled to check into a recovery program. Her mother believed this time would be different. But just days before her disappearance, Amanda accepted a call from Patterson to meet a man named Elliot, a known local figure with a criminal background. It would be one of the last known decisions she made. On December 5, 2008, Amanda told her mother she was heading out to meet a client arranged by Adam Patterson. It was a routine part of her life at the time, though one filled with hidden risks. That night, Patterson drove her to a house on Elliott Street in Buffalo, where she was scheduled to meet Antoine Garner, a local man with a violent criminal history. Garner was known in the area, both to residents and law enforcement. According to records, he had been accused of sexual assault in the past, and his reputation preceded him. Amanda's mother later said she felt uneasy that night, though she couldn't explain why. It was the last time Amanda was seen alive. When Amanda didn't return home, her family grew concerned almost immediately. Leslie reported her missing the following day. Police initiated a standard missing person investigation, but according to the family, the urgency they expected wasn't there. Amanda was classified as a voluntary missing adult, a designation that often slows response times. Flyers were distributed, interviews were conducted, and police questioned known associates, including Patterson and Garner. But early on, inconsistencies in statements began to emerge. Garner admitted Amanda had been at his house but claimed she left alive. Patterson's account shifted over time, raising further suspicion. Weeks passed with no breakthroughs. Then, on January 9, 2009, a call to police led investigators to Spring Street, just a short distance from Garner's residence. A neighbor had noticed something strange inside a garbage tote left outdoors. When authorities opened it, they discovered Amanda's body, frozen by the harsh Buffalo winter. She was naked, upside down, her head shaved, and placed inside the bin in a position that investigators themselves described as unusual. The temperature had preserved her remains, complicating the timeline but providing critical physical evidence. The medical examiner's office concluded that Amanda had died of acute opiate intoxication, essentially an accidental overdose. But Amanda's family immediately questioned this finding. Photos from the autopsy showed bruising on her neck, petechial hemorrhaging in her eyes, and injuries that some forensic experts believed were consistent with asphyxiation. A prominent independent pathologist reviewed the case and publicly stated that the death should have been classified as undetermined, not accidental. He also noted that the amount of heroin in Amanda's system was low, not enough in his view to cause fatal overdose in someone with her tolerance. Critics of the investigation pointed to multiple oversights. The house where she was last seen wasn't fully processed as a potential crime scene. Witness statements were inconsistent yet not aggressively pursued. Key evidence, including Amanda's clothing, was either never recovered or not properly documented. Despite these gaps, the official narrative remained unchanged. Amanda had overdosed elsewhere, and someone had placed her body in the bin afterward. For her family, that explanation raised more questions than answers. Leslie Wienckowski refused to let the case fade. She held press conferences, demanded independent reviews, and brought in private investigators. Their findings suggested that Amanda may have been killed elsewhere, possibly by strangulation, and that her body had been deliberately positioned to conceal the truth. Over time, the case became less about one tragic death and more about alleged failures within the investigative process. Failures that, to this day, many believe robbed Amanda of the justice she deserved. In the months and years that followed Amanda's death, her family refused to let the case be forgotten. Leslie Messeroli became the driving force behind a relentless campaign for answers. She organized vigils, spoke to media outlets, and met with forensic experts who challenged the official conclusions. Her persistence kept Amanda's story in the public eye, transforming what could have been a closed case into an ongoing debate that reached far beyond Buffalo. For many, Leslie's determination symbolized a mother's refusal to accept silence in the face of uncertainty. She was not only demanding justice for her daughter but also questioning the broader system that had failed to provide clear answers. Public response grew over time. Community members held rallies, and advocates for victims' rights began to highlight Amanda's case as an example of investigative shortcomings. Many criticized how quickly her death had been ruled accidental, arguing that her history of addiction led authorities to make assumptions rather than pursue every lead with equal urgency. Amanda's story exposed how bias, intentional or not, can shape the trajectory of an investigation. It forced uncomfortable questions. Would the case have been treated differently if Amanda hadn't struggled with addiction? If she hadn't been involved in sex work? These questions lingered uncomfortably in the public consciousness. The legal impact came years later. In response to Amanda's death and similar cases, New York State passed legislation making the improper disposal of a body a felony, closing a gap in the law that had allowed individuals who hid bodies after overdoses to avoid serious charges. Although this law was not retroactively applied to Amanda's case, it became part of her legacy, a tangible change in policy inspired by tragedy. Meanwhile, renewed calls for the case to be reclassified continued. Independent pathologists urged the Erie County Medical Examiner's Office to reconsider its ruling, citing evidence inconsistent with an overdose. Despite these appeals, the official cause of death remained unchanged. Today, more than a decade later, Amanda Wienckowski's case remains a haunting and unresolved chapter in Buffalo's history. There have been no arrests for her death, and no one has been held accountable for the disposal of her body. For Amanda's family, the pain has become a long, quiet endurance. Her mother still speaks publicly, reminding audiences that behind every headline is a human life, one that mattered deeply. Amanda was a daughter, a friend, and a young woman with dreams. Her story is not only about a tragedy but also about systemic cracks through which vulnerable people often fall. Amanda's case stands as a somber reminder that investigations are shaped not only by evidence but by perception, urgency, and human judgment. It shows how easily marginalized victims can be overlooked, and how persistence from loved ones can keep difficult truths from being buried. Though justice remains elusive, Amanda's story continues to resonate, challenging institutions, shaping laws, and reminding society of the responsibility to seek truth, even when the answers are inconvenient. If you found this story meaningful, consider supporting this channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing. Together, we can build a community that keeps these stories alive, pushes for accountability, and brings attention to the cases that deserve to be heard. Let's grow this new channel and this conversation together.